Hello girls, I hope you're keeping safe and healthy. So let's continue with Walt Whitman's poem. Today we are going to begin with the next poem of Walt Whitman, that is Crossing Brooklyn Ferry. So this is about a man taking the Brooklyn Ferry home from Manhattan at the end of a working day. And this poem is best known and loved poem of Walt Whitman. It was originally called Sundown in 1856. Then in 1860, the present title of Brooklyn Ferry was given to this poem. So it was first written, as I said, in 1856 and then included in Calamus section of The Leaves of Grass. It is a long poem in 9 sections and it ranks very high in the poetry of Whitman. Despite its occasional obscurity, still it's known as one of the best poems of Walt Whitman. It dramatizes a simple, ordinary experience in such a way as to symbolize the mystic unity that pervades all mankind and the universe. Its theme is thus the basic oneness of life, for all are born into this existence out of the same soul of all the world, and all are involved in the same scene and sight, and the same activities of this material world. Time and distance are meaningless, for the oneness of all is basic and spiritual. So he basically talks about oneness. It basically talks about comradeship. He basically talks about brotherhood, and he says time and distance doesn't matter when you have that feeling of oneness inside you. So that is why this poem, as you know, the main gist and the main feature of Walt Whitman is brotherhood and comradeship. So it's all about humans united in their experiences of life and movement. So there is a movement in the poem being shown, and there's a common experience of life which every individual faces, and hence he says that experience is quite common with everyone. Everyone's life has its own struggle, and that is common to all. So there is a kind of oneness in everything we experience in life. So now let's see what he has to say in the poem. So, flood tide below me, I see you face to face. Cloud of the west, sun there half an hour high, I see you also face to face. Crowds of men and women attired in the usual costumes, how curious you are to me. On the ferry boats, the hundreds and hundreds that cross, returning home, are more curious to me than you suppose. And you that shall cross from shore to shore, years hence are more to me, and more in my meditations than you might suppose. So this is, as I said, this is a poem about a man, about a scene of a ferry from Manhattan to Brooklyn at the end of the working day. So in the first section, the poet gives us a setting and the time and brings in the basic symbols and the chief characters of the poem. Manhattan and Brooklyn are 2 of the 5 districts of New York. Brooklyn is separated from Manhattan by the East River, which is crossed by a ferry which plies to and fro. So it is a time of sunset and the poet is crossing the river in a ferry. There are a number of passengers in the boat looking at the same scene and the sights and the cloud, the settings and the rivers, etc. The bond of unity between them, and it is this bond which links up the poet both with the generation who have in the past crossed the river in the ferry and those who would do so in the future. The river is a traditional symbol symbolizing the sea of life or sea of time. And the ferry symbolizes human life, which has to cross the sea of life to reach the eternal. Some critics take the ferry to symbolize poetry, for it is this poetry which unites the poet with countless generation who will read it in the times to come. So he says, flood tide below me, I see you face to face. So he's talking with the nature. He says, I see you face to face. Clouds of the west, sun there half an hour high, I see you also face to face. So sun is almost about to set, but it's just half an hour high. After half an hour it's going to set. So he says, I'm looking at you also face to face. Crowds of men and women attired in the usual costumes. How curious you are to me. On the ferry boats, the hundreds sit across. So there's a literal meaning of this stanza. No underlying meaning, no hidden meaning. He says that I'm looking at each and everyone who's traveling with me. I'm looking at the nature. I'm looking at the nature, the natural aspects of nature. And you that shall cross from shore to shore, years hence are more to me, and more in my meditation than you might suppose. And you have been with me, because I have been crossing you since ages and since years, because he must have been working from pretty long time. So he says that I'm crossing you since ages, and you are with me from years and years. So he introduces us to the kind of scenario, the kind of daily routine he has. Then the second section, the impalpable sustenance of me from all things at all hours of the day. The simple, compact, well-joined scheme. Myself disintegrated, everyone disintegrated, yet part of the scheme. The similitudes of the past and those of the future. The glory is strung like beads on my smallest sides. Excuse me, and hearing on the walk in the streets and the passage over the river. The current rushing so swiftly and swimming with me far away. The others that are to follow me, the ties between me and them. The certainty of others, the life, love, sight, hearing of others. Others will enter the gates of Ferry and cross from shore to shore. Others will watch the run of the flood tide. Others will see the shipping of Manhattan north and west, and the heights of Brooklyn to the south and east. Others will see the islands large and small. 50 years hence, others will see them as they cross, the sun half an hour high. 100 years hence, or ever so many 100 years hence, others will see them, will enjoy the sunset, the pouring in of the flood tide, the falling back to the sea of the ebb tide. So, in section 2, we get a long catalogue of the scenes and sights and the human activity which constitute the shared experience of man from generation to generation. The past and the present and the future are thus linked up in a comic unity, all pervasive and universal. In all creation, there is a simple, compact, well-joined scheme. There is essential unity of all despite their separateness. Excuse me. Everyone is separate yet also a part of the basic unity. It is a harmony made up of many orchestras. So the poet is trying to give you the sustenance of the things that exist in nature. The simple, compact, well-joined scheme. Myself disintegrated, everyone is disintegrated, yet part of the scheme. So everybody has their own life, but then they're part of the scheme. They're part of this nature. The similitudes of the past and those of the future. The glory strung like beads on my smallest sights and hearings, on walk in the street and the passage over the river. So there are a lot of things which he's trying to correlate. He's trying to correlate past with the present and then the future. So there is a kind of connection the poet is trying to develop. And he's trying to give you the picture of nature which exists with you no matter what, no matter where you go. Yeah, so there is shared human experience. So Whitman draws the reader's attention to quiet details of his commute and makes them sound extraordinary here. And he's trying to give you the picture which he's trying to share, that current rushing so swiftly and swimming with me far away. The others that are to follow me, the ties between me and them, the certainty of others, the life, love, sight, hearing of others. So everything he thinks of those simple, compact, well joined schemes. He thinks again about all the people of the future who will enter the gates of the ferry and cross from shore to shore. The poet thinks about his role in relation to the nature, to the universe. To him, the universe seems compact, harmonious, well adjusted. He's part of the multitude of men, part of the eternal process of birth, life, and death. Whitman probes into the future and identifies himself with the persons who will cross the river 100 years hence. He says, whatever we I am doing right now would be done by other people also 100 years from now. The others are to follow me. The ties between me and them. So there's a tie. There's a connection. The certainty of others, a life, love, sight, hearing of others. Others will enter the gates. So the link is established between the poet and the others, including future readers. So he says others will watch the run of the flight, others will see the shipping of Manhattan, north and west, and the heights of Brooklyn. What I'm seeing right now will be seen by the future generation also, and was seen by the generation that came before me. Others will see the islands large and small 50 years hence. Others will see them as they cross, the sun half an hour high, 100 years hence, or ever so many 100 years hence. Others will see them, will enjoy the sunset, the pouring in of the flood tide, and the fall back to the sea of the ebb tide, excuse me. So you will see that the poet is trying to give you a picture that these things are going to exist in future also. 50 years from now, the people are going to travel, are also going to observe and encounter the same things or experience the same things which I'm experiencing. So there is a connection which he's trying to develop between the past and the present and the future. So that's a beautiful connection which the poet tries to develop. As I said, the ferry symbolizes the spatial and the temporal movement. It is also associated with the groups of men and women who ride it, who have ridden it, and who will ride it. The coming together of these men and women symbolize the spiritual unity of men in this world, the spiritual unity of human race in this world. Alright, so I'll stop here for today and we'll continue with the poem in the next class. Thank you so much, girls. Stay safe, stay at home, and keep studying. Bye bye.